Today we are diving into the world of arcades and retro gaming. I had the chance to talk with Brian Collin, the creator of Rampage and many other classics that shaped our childhood. We will uncover how these legends were made, hear incredible stories, and go behind the scenes of the golden age of arcades. If you're an arcade guy or a video game passionate like me, I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy this video. Let's dive in together. And here we are, guys, with Brian Collin. Brian, thank you for joining today. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a fun day. The weather's great here, and been getting a lot done today. So it's been a wonderful day.
Good, great. So let's start with a little icebreaker. I would ask you to introduce yourself. Okay. Pretty sure whoever is watching at this video, they clicked because they know you, but let's make sure they get the full picture, who we are talking with today.
Okay. My name is Brian Collin. I am known best as a video game designer. I'm an international award-winning animated filmmaker as well. And I'm a grandpa with a couple of 2-year-old grandkids upstairs. But mostly I'm known as being the guy who created Rampage among a little over 90 games since 1982.
And Rampage was in the 82 or 80?
85, 86 it came out. We were doing it in 85. I think it finally came out in 86. I got in the industry in 1982. I fell backwards into the industry in 1982. Bally Midway was looking for an animator, and I was an animated filmmaker, and I couldn't understand why what I thought of as a pinball company would want an animator, and I thought, oh, they need someone to paint the back glass on the pinball machine. And I was wrong. They said, no, we've seen your animated film, and we'd like you to be an animator for our new development team. And I said, really? Pac-Man? You need someone to do that? But they were willing to offer me real money, which as a salary, which up till then I was kind of working as my own ad agency, working for beer and pretzels for the most part. And I didn't really think I was going to like the job. I thought, that's it, childhood's over, I got to take it, it's a real job. And man, was I wrong. It's never been anything like a real job, and childhood has never been over.
Wow, I love that. You know, when I have these interviews, I always like to ask who we're talking with. Are we talking with an engineer, a business person, or a gamer, or maybe a little of everything?
All right, engineer, business person, or gamer. All right, that's 3 good choices. You missed on all of them.
Cool. So
I've had my own business for 35 years. I'm not a businessman. I'm a game designer. I'm an artist. I'm a creator. Creative challenges is what I live for and what I'm pretty good at. I would not call myself an engineer, although I worked as a game designer in engineering department. I'm an artist. I'm an animator is how I fell into this. And I became a game designer out of self-defense. I was very lucky in those days when I started this. It was the Wild West. Management left us alone. We were a bunch of kids all around the same age going, can we do this? Who's going to stop us? We got the freedom to try stuff. We made some terrible mistakes, and we made some wonderful discoveries. And as an animator, I got to work with every programmer working on a game. And you find out, the ones that are better planned have a better chance of getting out there. I worked with a great programmer named Bob Dinnerman on my first game was Discs of Tron, which was that huge environmental cabinet with the 3D effect that blew me away from the moment I started working there. It's like, this is so much more than I thought it was going to be. And unlike animation on film, where I'm drawing for weeks and filming for nights and sending away the film, I'm working on something in the morning and I'm playing it in the afternoon across the hall. It was wonderful. And I've already strayed from your question, so I apologize.
No, that's awesome. That's what I like. So on this very first game, do you remember? I assume it's very early 80s?
1982.
82.
I worked on Discs of Tron, Spy Hunter. I worked on a lot of games at once when I was hired, but Discs of Tron was the first that was released. Spy Hunter, I think, was the second. And I was working as an animator, but I contributed to the design because part of your job, everybody's job, was you put the stuff in, you play the game, you say, hey, couldn't we do this here? Or why aren't we doing this? And that became the passion that made, I mean, the art's always fun. Creating's always fun. So I'm lucky that way. And the fact that in addition, we're all pulling together to make this thing something that everybody's going to want to play, it was really a magic time.
Yeah, yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So in the 82, with this very first game, how old were you?
26, maybe.
So how did you get into, because one thing is playing video games, that I understand you love video games, but how did you get into working to develop? In this case, you were in animations, right? But after that, you get into designing. So let's talk a little about the transition from being just like me, a normal human being playing games.
I am a normal human being, believe it or not. Don't be fooled. Like I said, when they offered me the job, I didn't even really want it. I kind of was just looking for full-time work, and I did not think I would like it. It turned out I loved it. I did not think it would be right for me. It was perfect for me at the time. And the team, Bally Midway's development team, they had only done one game before they hired me, which was Tron. Everybody knows Tron. But the one programmer, well, they didn't like the way the animation was very stiff, so they hired me because I was an animator. And then because management in those early days left us alone, we weren't actually in the factory, we were in a little office, and they left us alone for the most part. We would all very much peer-to-peer help each other. And no matter what anybody was working on, you made a comment and you said, hey, why don't we do this? And because management, I mean, 3 guys would do a game in 9 months, 3 people, 5 maybe at most. A programmer, a sound guy or 2, and an animator, 2 or 3 animators at most. And so everybody's pulling, and everybody would walk by everybody's office every day and say, hey, why don't you do this? Hey, have you thought about this? Oh, I don't like this. Why is that happening? So that kind of feedback was constant. And I've worked at other companies since where management would pit teams against each other and you wouldn't help each other. That was nowhere near. And Bally Midway in those early days was so much fun. Everybody was pulling for everybody else. And I became a game designer mainly because I never stopped asking questions. Even though I wasn't a programmer, I wanted to know why the hardware wouldn't do this. So I'd ask the mechanical engineer, or I'd ask, why can we not make this scroll? Or why can this hardware not support this? I'd get an answer. And because I was looking at it from a different direction than maybe the programmers or the other engineers, I'd go, well, what about this? And they'd say, no, what about this? And then when everybody in the room goes, you've got it. So it was a wonderful, wonderful time. And that's how I became a designer. There was a game that was bombing out on test, and it had some really cool gameplay, but it looked like every other space game of the time, Galaga and that kind of stuff. And I said, well, I got on my art tool and created a little flying saucer green man and said, what about him? And they said, okay, reskin the whole game. And then when we reskinned it, it went out there and on test and made a ton of money, and they loved it. And that was like, I'd only been there a few months. The fact that they would trust a comment from a newbie, kind of led me towards the game design side of things. And well, I could keep talking forever, but then you'll never get another question.
No, man, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, it helps to set up the context, to get some context, right? I love to because of course we can just jump into and start talking about Rampage, right? But okay, let's talk about what everything started and how, right?
Right.
So in the 80, you said 85, 86. In my mind, I had 86, but it might be 85 then.
No, it probably was. Like I say, I was always working on multiple games at once. So even though I created Rampage, and that was my main passion, I was also working on other games as the whole team was. There were always 5, 6, 8, 10 games in development at once. So, and usually I was working on about half of them. But Rampage, I came up with it in 85 and it finally got released in 86. It took about 9, 10 months. And of that, the first 7 months was development. Myself, programmer Jeff Nauman, and the sound guy. In this case, it was a Mike Bartlow, Mikey. And 3 guys is all it took. And the last 2 months were always test. That's where we literally bring the physical game out into an arcade, put it there, and then you'd stand in the back and see what was making people put in another quarter or dive into another quarter or shake their heads and walk away angry. Testing was my favorite part. Well, not my favorite part, but was one of the best parts of the arcade days.
So you spent 7 months designing, then another 2 months for testing. But how did you get the idea? How did you get the idea? What was where the inspiration came from? Maybe it was movies, King Kong, or whatever. Let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, as a nerd my whole life, a book reader, a comic book reader, Mad Magazine, the whole thing, and a cartoonist. The idea for Rampage, though, came from somebody telling me no. Like I mentioned, I would often ask about why can't the hardware do this? Well, we can't scroll. Well, I can fake this if I do this, can't I? I would ask the programmer. Programmer's like, yeah, we can. So I created a game in which we had the first kind of screen that could scroll on when they said the hardware couldn't do it. And by the time we got, and then I did a game where I wanted to do big characters, and I came up with something, and wow, I used really big characters. So I had in a meeting with several of my coworkers, and I was saying, hey, look, some of our competitors have this wonderful animating backgrounds, and I would love to do big characters and big animating backgrounds with nothing in particular in mind. But I liked, and they're like, management's not going to go for that. They're not going to pay for it. You can't do it. But you can't do it. Brian, face it. You can move a rectangle. What are you going to do with a moving rectangle? So I turned and looked at Sharon, the other animator that was in the room, and I said, okay. A moving rectangle, a building collapsing into itself is a moving rectangle. What knocks down buildings but big creatures? We all got extremely excited. We said that. I went and called one of the programmers I love to work with, Jeff Nauman, said, now, if we do this, can we do this one block at a time? And yes, we can. We just knew we had next year's #1 hit. I even wrote that in the top line of the design document. And we took it to our boss and he said, no.
No.
So I went over his head. I went to the head of engineering. He laughed. He said, this is hysterical. This is great. I said, so we can do it. And he said, no. Top 3 guys will never let you do it. You're eating people. You're the bad guy. And I'm like, you're not the bad guy. You're the victim. You didn't ask to be turned into a monster. No. So Jeff and I started on it anyway, just to prove that we could do it.
Let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
They giving you the no or the negative. Why? Due to technical concerns,
No.
The concept.
As it was explained to me by the head of engineering, because you were eating people. You weren't here and you're not as old as me. Back in those days, video games were controversial. Arcades were controversial. Oh, they're going to bring the bad element into my town. They're going to, arcades were something that the management was very scared. They wanted to tread lightly. We're not going to do a game where you can eat policemen. We're not going to do a game where you can knock down cities. And they were no. So that was their rationale. And while I knew we had the best game ever, at least back then, I understood their concern, but I was sure that my cartoony, friendly, Looney Tunes type approach would make it acceptable. Because, you can't drop an anvil on somebody's head, but you can get away with it in a Roadrunner cartoon because it's comic. Well, they said no, and then just plain by accident, nothing to do with us, Jeff and I started on the game to prove it out, and the top 3 guys got fired. And the new guy that came in was from the real estate, or not a real estate, a retail organization. And he sent around a memo before he started and said, don't worry, it's just an upper management change. Everybody's job is safe. And I've got an open door policy. So you can guess who was sitting outside his door, with his back against his door on his very first day. I pitched him Rampage. He green-lighted it. And then the game went on to break it made more money than any single game it ever made to that point.
Hats off to you, man.
Yeah, it was that Rampage will always be my most heartfelt victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for people watching this video, I really, I always like to say that I use my YouTube channel to, of course, do the things that I like.
Yeah.
In this case, having the opportunity to talk with the people who shaped the video game industry, that for us it's a common thing. I born with a Mario Brothers in my hand, right? But there was a time, and probably very active followers are tired of me saying this, but there was a time where all this didn't exist. Right. And some people like you, Brian, you guys built what we are enjoying today. That's why I love and I enjoy that much this kind of conversations.
Well, thank you. And you got to know, we enjoyed it. I've awakened every day grateful, because I was getting paid to do things that I loved, and the challenges, the creative challenges is the kind of stuff I live for. So yeah, I've been very lucky. I've been doing this for 43 years now. So
tell me, you got the green light.
Yeah.
What you did that night? Any kind of celebration? Because I would meet with all my people and do something crazy.
Well, you know what? To be quite honest, back in those days, every day was a bit of a celebration. Like I say, we were all working on games that we all cared about, some more than others, but I don't recall that we did, Jeff and I, and we all went, yay, we can do this. And we sat down and did it. But again, we're all working on other stuff. Various times, like the year before, Valley Midway never called any of us designers. You're a programmer. You're an art. To my knowledge, you're a programmer. You're an artist. You're a sound guy. None of us are designers. But they were showing Nolan Bushnell, father of video games, through our offices the year before, and I had just designed a game called Swackery, which was a Dungeons and Dragons game. And they're walking Nolan by the office, and they pointed to the office and said, this is our new game, Swackery. And this is its designer, Brian Collin. Now that day, I celebrated that night, and I went out and changed my business cards the very next day. That was just one of those milestones. It's just like, and then Rampage was actually another milestone, because prior to that, any games I did, any games from the video department, the pinball department always did the headers and the marquees and the bezels and everything. They always did the art. With Rampage, the head of the art department downstairs came up and said, Brian, why aren't you doing the cabinet art? I can do that. So Rampage is the first game where I actually got to do all the screen art and animation and all the cabinet art. So yeah, like I say, Rampage is...
I didn't know that you did the art of the arcade.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm learning that right now. I read about you and I saw other videos, other interviews, but I didn't hear this. Wow, pretty cool.
Yeah. Like I said, I have been very lucky. I have been blessed. I really have.
Wow.
I've been very lucky.
So how did you get the ideas of the monsters devastating the buildings and the city?
Well, like I said, coming up with the idea that the only thing we could animate in the background was the buildings, knocking down buildings had to be monsters. And a lot of people, King Kong was an obvious one, because he was a small enough monster that could climb up a building. A lot of people think Lizzie was Godzilla, but it wasn't, because Godzilla was bigger than buildings. I needed someone who could crawl up. So Lizzie was kind of based on the Ray Harryhausen character, the Ymir from the movie 20 Million Miles to Earth. And then Then the real interesting one was Ralph. We did not have enough art to do 3 characters, and I wanted to do a 3-character game. So Ralph, but we didn't have enough art. We had 16 colors per sprite that we made the guys up with. So Ralph is really George, the brown monkey, put in another color palette to turn him kind of a light blue. And then we just had to do a new head for him. So that's why Ralph was a wolf, because he had fur and we just had to come up with something. And Jeff's like, I want a wolf because I want to call him Ralph. So like I said, we were having fun every day we worked on this.
That is so cool. So the game was released, right? I don't know. It's Sunday. You know the game is going to be released at the next day. It's Monday. When did you guys realize the game was a success? Was a boom in the market?
On test. Before the game was released, we knew it was going to do very, very well. The marketing department. So I contacted the marketing department. I said, look, this game has pretty limited graphics because we're pushing this hardware to the limit, but I destroy 128 US cities. So write to every city and say, your town is going to be destroyed. And of course, the marketing department said, no. So I did. I wrote to every city, every newspaper in every city. I wrote to every television station in every city and generated hundreds of articles and many TV spots on the evening news, because Peoria is about to be destroyed. Los Angeles is about to be destroyed. I did it because, again, I was passionate. This was my baby. This was my game. And that helped, I think, because it did. It ended up earning more money than any video game of its time.
Man, that is crazy. So what I'm understanding is that you assumed the risk to go against what the marketing department or the company told you. They said, no, you can't, but look at me. And you just did it.
Well, I asked them to do it because that was their job. They didn't tell me I couldn't do it, so I just went ahead and did it.
I love it. I love it, man. So we have this success. What was the feedback from the company after their release?
Yes, it was great. I mean, pretty much once it's a success, then the company comes back and says, oh, we never doubted this for a minute. You know, that's just the nature of corporate America. By then we were getting more corporate, though. In the early days, it was just us on the you know, in our little office away from everybody, kind of trying whatever we wanted to try. Once it got more corporate, then there becomes more middle management and more hoops you're supposed to jump through. But fortunately by then, especially after Rampage, then they were asking us what we wanted to do next. And then, so, hey, they might say, we want another 3-player game. So I said, here's Xenophobe. Hey, we want to do a 4-player game. I said, hey, I just discovered this great new underground comic book where you make a great 4-player game. And I showed it to them. It's in black and white, but I think we can probably get the license for this because it hasn't been discovered yet. And they went, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? That's the thing we ever heard of. So they passed on that. And of course, Konami did it a year later. But, you know, they didn't always listen to us, but they did at least ask after that, after Rampage.
Wow. And we're going to, I would like to ask you a few things about the other games, of course, what you did after Rampage. But let's just stick with Rampage for a little more.
Okay.
What did you feel after seeing players' first reactions to Rampage?
It was a positive. It was positive from day one. Jeff the programmer, co-designer, if you will, on Rampage, he and I were both very different people. I'm a book reader. He's an athlete. But we both kept ego out of it, and because we were both focused on making this thing great. And so our conversations back and forth are, what can we do? What can't we do? How do we do this? They were always very positive. One of the things we understood was the mechanical engineer, who was kind of the heart of that department back then, was a guy named George Gomez, and he now works for Stern making pinball. But he was, one of the things he said best, I think, and I'm basically paraphrasing him, was, we had 2 customers. Idea is the easy part, but we've got a customer who's going to pay back then $4,000 for a game. And he wants the player off in 30 seconds to get that next quarter. And our other customer was the player who's putting a quarter in, and he wants to live forever. And it was our job to make them both happy. So things like in Rampage that I'm really proud of that are outside just the fun of finding out what's behind the windows and all that, knocking down buildings and how you can keep playing, was when you died, as a video game, you died, you start over. But we didn't kill you. We turned you into a little naked human that crawls off the screen. Because while you were crawling off, if you got another quarter in quick enough, you could keep your score. Because watching players when we're during test situations, if they don't have a reason to put in another quarter right away, they're going to go look for another game maybe. But this gave them a reason to put in another. So we knew the game was going to make money because, hey, quick, get in that next quarter. And that what we didn't count on, which was even better, was other players that they were playing with would go, hey, Bill's human, eat him. So then they're running down to eat the guy while he's trying to get a quarter in. That's one of the reasons it did so well in earnings, and one of the reasons it lasted so long in arcades, where other arcade games of those days would last for 3 months and then they'd get pushed to the back of the room. Rampage arcade game, you would find it years later in bowling alleys and restaurants and ice skating rinks, because the thing kept earning and it kept its appeal.
Right. And when was the game started to be, I don't know, ported into other consoles like NES? Well, I think it's ported in every single console.
It is.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you that. Bally was really great. They would always send me a home console whenever a new one would come out. So I'll be honest, I had the game here in the basement, so I never really played them. I've got them in a huge box back in the office, but I didn't really focus on the industry. A lot of industry questions I'm no good at. I had my job. I was loving my job. I knew what I was working on next, and I knew I was thinking about what I was doing after that. I didn't really follow the industry any more than it applied to me. Like, for example, if I'd go to a trade show, I would go down every aisle looking at the games, mainly to make sure no one was doing anything that I wanted to do. And if I saw something too close to what I wanted to do, well, I better change that then. I better do something a little different. Because I'm not a good one to ask about dates. It was ported everywhere. The earliest ports were very crude. The later ports looked tremendous. Sometimes they had, and I never had anything to do with them because they were licensed to a company that had completely different hardware, and their engineers had to figure out how to emulate what we did.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was going. I was trying to understand if you were engaged in any way on developing or adapting game for other platforms.
That was their in-house teams, and a lot of them did some really great jobs. And I got to say, even though I love to be able to do the cabinet art on Rampage, and then every other game I ever did, I did the cabinet art. I love some of the home console game art was brilliant. I mean, some was done by Mad Magazine artists. I mean, that was my favorite thing about getting a home game sent when it come out. It's like, oh, I like what they did there. The guy leaning out the window looking down at the monsters. It's just cigars falling out of his mouth. Like I say, it's been a very fun 40 some years.
How did you feel when you got when you get aware that Hollywood was going to make a movie out of your game? That's
when
big.
I first heard about it, I contacted Warner Brothers and said, hey, I did Rampage. I did 10 years later, I did Rampage World Tour. And I can, I've got all kinds of background on the characters, and I got a very polite, don't call us, thank you, don't call us, we'll call you. And then when they were filming in Chicago, I got invited by the people that were looking for extras. So it's like, you want to be an extra? Doesn't get any better than this. Yes. And I'm running around the streets of Chicago when in 98 degrees and 99% humidity in a wool suit as a businessman. And then the assistant director came up and said, I understand you designed the game. And I said, yeah. He said, can we shoot a cameo? And I'm like, it doesn't get any better than this. They shot a cameo. I'm running down the street away from the Sears Tower behind a car with a big camera mounted on the top. And it's like, oh, this is great. And then A couple of weeks later, I get a call from one of the producers who says, "Hey, I've been wanting to contact you for a while, but now they can't stop me. You want to come down to the studio and meet everybody during the last week of shooting." So I got to go down. I got to meet everybody. They were fantastic. I was like a little 5-year-old kid, grinning like an idiot the whole time. The Rock and Naomi Harris were filming one of the ending scenes there at the, and I was about 300 yards away around the corner taking a picture with the producers and the director and a few other people. And all of a sudden I hear, stop, I got to be part of this. The Rock comes running over. He was like I felt like he was 300 feet tall. He was so nice. He was so cool. I mean, Naomi was too. All of them, everybody out there treated me. I mean, I'm hero worshiping them. I'm geeking out in major ways, and they treated me like royalty. They were wonderful. So, and I really love the way the movie came out because they kept the heart in it. They weren't just kaijus. They kept the heart in George. And for me, that was what it was all about. You know, they didn't ask to be turned into monsters. So I thought they did such a really fun job with the movie.
Yes, absolutely. I love the detail of the cameo scene.
Unfortunately, you better put this in too if people are looking for it. If you're watching the movie, you can see me running in the background. And on the special features, they interview me, which was really nice. But I'm at the premiere with my wife, and we're sitting there. And I'm going, okay. And I had friends calling me that said they saw pre-screenings, and your face is huge, and the Sears Tower's coming down on you. So I'm sitting there with my wife at the premiere, going, okay, hon, here it comes.
They skipped it.
At the after party, the producer comes up to me, and first thing he says to me is, "I'm sorry, Brian. Warner came in 3 weeks ago, and you ended up on the cutting room floor."
No.
Yeah, I've got video of me being filmed that other extras took, but I've never actually seen the cameo. But some people did, but I didn't get to, so it's not.
Well, but at least you're running. You're running
I'm
between the buildings. Oh man! So it's clear that Rampage was and it is still a success in the gaming world, and I would like to say and see and get your feedback if you feel it's accurate to say that Rampage, it has a place in the history of the video game designs development.
Absolutely. I mean, 5-10 years ago, I genuinely thought that, most people had forgotten about my earlier games just because, they were 30, 40 years ago. But I got introduced to the kind of the game con world here a few years back, and I realized people still remembered. And at my age, I don't know if you can appreciate how wonderful that feels that people remember the games that I made back then, like Rampage, like several of the others. It feels wonderful. And yeah, I think it's absolutely video game history.
Yes, absolutely agree. And I'll tell you, I'll send you, I think I have a video. Well, we were playing video games every day with my daughter. She's 6. Yeah. Now we cut that off to just weekends because, with the school.
Yeah. Right.
But I'm going to send you a video. If I ask my daughter, who's your favorite character in Rampage, she likes to say King Kong because, she still believes in King Kong. But it's funny. And she's 6, man.
No, well, now in the original game, the human at the start of the game that turns into the ape, George, that was me. The woman that turns into Lizzie was my wife, Ray, and the human that turns into Ralph was programmer Jeff Nauman. So the fact that she likes George best.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny because she always says, King Kong, Papa, you know that. Sorry.
King Kong.
Oh, man.
As long as we didn't say it, we couldn't get sued. You can say it all you want.
Right. So we got Rampage, success, entire world playing with it. A few years later, you did more.
I kept making games for Mid-Valley Midway. We did Xenophobe. I did many others, but we won't go into it. Xenophobe was very popular 3-player game. we did a game called Arch Rivals, which I'd been wanting to do a game. We'd done some games where we let the player control multiple characters or multiple vehicles. And my Jeff Nauman, the same programmer I did with Rampage, came in one day and says, "I've got it. Brian, you want to do something where we're controlling multiple characters? Let's do basketball. They can pass, they can call for a pass, they can shoot, they can block. This is going to use real basketball strategies. They can do a pick and roll." And I'm like, "Jeff, hang on. You're 6'2", I'm 5'9". Basketball players are going to love this, but we're going to need something to get the regular video game nerds interested. So how about if we do personal fouls?" So that's where Arch Rivals came from, because you could punch the guy in the face and steal the ball or pull his pants down or tackle him. And it was the model for some of the best known sports games that came after that. That gameplay came from Arch Rivals. And we were about 2/3 of the way through it at Bally Midway when we were bought out by our biggest competitor, Williams Electronics, from the other side of Chicago. Jeff and I were the only two video game designers that they kept. And we finished the game for our new bosses at Williams Bally Midway. And I'm very pleased to say that the sales from Arch Rivals was such a hit that it paid for the multi-million-dollar buyout just from its sales. So then we did a couple more games then for the new Williams Bally Midway. And then we were asked to come work for Electronic Arts, and I did not want to move to California. So after about 9 months of back and forth, because I had a big yard out here, that, wooded acre out here, and they said, "What if we give you the money to start your own company?" Okay.
Shocking.
I could do that. So then we formed Game Refuge, and Game Refuge is still around. We continue to make games for Midway, and for our first game for Electronic Arts was General Chaos, which was like a very popular game. It was, I think they said it was like the highest earning for them non-licensed title, because it was an original concept from us. And again, you controlled multiple characters, gunners and scorchers, and anyway.
General Chaos was arcade or console?
This was console now. This was for Electronic Arts, so it was for the Sega Genesis. And it did very well for them. It's one of the reasons the 4-player adapter was created for the Sega Genesis, was so that 4 players could play at once.
Oh wow, didn't know that neither. Yeah. Wow, pretty cool. And General Chaos was one of the, I'm not sure if the very first or one of the earliest real-time tactic kind of game.
Yes,
right?
I'm not sure if this is totally accurate, but it's been called the first and funniest real-time strategy video game ever, because you go here, you go here, you go here, and then you're telling them when to fire, and it was live. It was 2 players. It was total. I mean, it really was chaos, because I grew up with real-time strategy games that were 3 hours of setup and little cardboard pieces and taking turns, and it would take hours to play before you even got to a decent part of the battle. With General Chaos, I wanted a game that 10 seconds into it, you're in the middle of a battle, and it was very, very popular. I'm doing the sequel. I've been working on it for a while. We've had to work on it on and off between other client jobs because we're kind of self-funding. But General Chaos 2, Major Snafu, is in the works, and we're getting very, very close. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. But
my God! Well, yes. No, I'm not going to cut that off.
A lot of very talented people have been working on it. Arcade guys from way back when, and brilliant young guys that are fresh out of school. It's going to be fun. Okay, end of commercial.
Two questions about that.
Okay.
Maybe you can't answer, I don't know, but where will this game be available? In which platforms?
Initially, it's going to be a PC game this time.
PC game. Okay.
I wanted to be able to do everything I couldn't do on a Sega Genesis D-pad. Yeah. I mean, dynamic scrolling of the thing, but not too big, but big enough, more characters, more weapons, a lot of fun details than this that I couldn't do in the original, a lot more humor, if that's possible. But it's going to be a PC game first. We have a right of first refusal with the company, with Electronic Arts. So they may say, hey, when we get done with it, we got to show it to them one more time and let them decide if they want to release it on PC or do it on PlayStation or wherever. I'm talking to some friends in the industry that want to adapt it for PlayStation already, no matter what anybody else wants to do. But right now, I'm a game guy. I don't care where it ends up. I hope it ends up everywhere. But I'm doing it as a PC game first. You'll be able to play it with an Xbox controller or keyboard and mouse or touchscreen, if you will.
Yes. I love it.
But it's going to be a PC game first.
And the second question, is there any promo video available or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yes, we have a lot of video of actual gameplay. I'm an arcade guy, and because I think I was mentioning to you about testing in the old days, I was always done with the game, or pretty done with the game before I showed anybody anything. I'm still that way. Most of my team keeps telling me, no, you got to show it early these days. You got to get people in these days. We're currently at the point where I want to, because we've been self-funding and since COVID, we've had to work remotely. We're planning on a crowdfunder coming up where just so I can get enough money to get the whole team into one place, because they're not going to fit in my basement here.
Yeah.
So I'm putting together a crowdfunder right now. I'll be releasing some really cool footage. I'll be releasing some real cool surprises about some of the arcade legends that are going to be working on it with us. But I don't have any dates and I don't have any video yet.
Okay. Do you have any or a favorite memory or a funny story from the development of Rampage?
There are so many. 40 years of making games. There are fun stories about everything I've ever worked on. Rampage was. See, I've touched on some of my favorite memories for Rampage. Like I say, a lot of the best of Rampage was seeing kids' faces when they play it, seeing people flock to it at trade shows when we're unveiling it. And then 10 years later doing Rampage World Tour. Again, we were our own company by then. Game Refuge is who we've been since 1992. But we were doing Rampage World Tour, and we had a bigger team for that, like 16 programmers and animators working on that. I have no single memory of a great moment other than there were just so many of them right now in front of you. I can't think of one to single out other than we did it again, and then 30 years later, they made a movie about it.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Man.
How great is that?
I can only imagine, man. For people like you, there is no way people like me can imagine the feelings that went through not only your mind, but your heart, right? Because today, in 5 years, in 10 years, whatever, in 50 years, in 100 years, the product of your mind and your emotions, it's gonna be in the video game. It's gonna be in the history, man.
Now you're just trying to make me cry on camera, so you can.
Man, honestly, that's.
But that is how it feels. That is, you have, like I said, you do have a feel for it, because, like I said, when I realized that people still remembered it after all these times, I would choke up, because I'm watching a grandfather play with his daughter who has a baby under one arm and her son next to her, and the four of them, the baby's not really playing, but the whole family, and the fact that I get contacted by people who tell me on not just Rampage, but many of my games, this was my favorite game for me and my best friend, blah, 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 or me and my sister or my big brother or my cousin, and we played this all the time, and it feels wonderful. There's just no way to communicate how great that feels.
Yes, yes, I hear you, man, and trust me, I feel you. Feels great. Um, so, what would you, what advice, if something, would you give to other young entrepreneurs? Not
Okay.
necessarily entrepreneurs on the on the video game industry, but entrepreneurs like you.
Well, you're giving me more credit here because, like I said, I fell backwards into this. I didn't really know this is where I was going. I did have my own ad agency. I did make films. I kept doing what I loved, but I guided them towards what I thought could help me. When I made my animated film that won all these awards around the world, I tried to show off every type of style of animation I could because I thought, oh, maybe that'll help me get a job. When I was
Hmm.
doing ads, I would just go to local places and say, hey, can I help you with this? And doing it for next to nothing because, like I say, I'm more of an artist than a businessman. But my advice for anybody trying to get into this industry is unfortunately, it's going to be a lot harder for you than it is for me. On the good side, you've got the tools available to do your own game all by yourself. Don't. Find some people you can work with, even if you are an artist and a musician and a programmer and a game designer and can create levels, and you can do it all yourself, but it's better if you have someone who believes in it as much as you do. So you do have to be a salesman too. Believe in this with me. Come work with me. And at these early stages, keep it small. I've gone to colleges, college groups where they've got teams of 30 people that are going to do a game, and they're describing to me Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, no, you're never going to get that done in a semester or 2 or 5, because these people are going to leave, and these people are going to leave, and these people are going to drop out, and these people are going to graduate. Keep it small. Make it fun, learn from your mistakes. And then that way, the people you've pulled in with you all get to stay pumped, all gets to stay excited. And then you do this. And then you learn from that, and you learn from that, and then you do this. And by then you've got stuff that you can take around and show, or, if you're smart enough to take business classes in college, which I didn't, you've got things to show that you can say, we did this, and we did this on our own, and we can do this. And that's, to someone like me, I've been hiring animators and programmers for the last 30 years, I'd much rather see something someone did with a friend or two or a couple of cohorts than, hi, this is my reel that shows everything I did in college or that I was assigned to do. I'd rather see something that you created, that you're passionate about, and that you finished. Because professionally, I've been involved with more unfinished games with people I've worked with than finished games. And while you can always say, well, it wasn't my fault, it's always better to say, no matter what, we managed to get through this.
We don't have the chance every day to talk or to listen to people like you, right? So that's why I like to get some extra juice out of your mind, right? Maybe you never know. Maybe someone watching this video get that advice, right? And that makes any difference for someone in the world. And wow, that would be super awesome.
And again, you might have your mind set on video games, but like me, don't say no to an opportunity that you haven't tried yet. Because I wasn't going towards video games. I thought I was going towards Hollywood.
Right.
The fact that when I got stumbled backwards into video games, it was the right place for me was kind of a lesson too. It's like, you may think you're pretty clever. You may have some good ideas and you may have some talent, but that doesn't mean that the world isn't going to throw something at you that's better, as long as you're willing to take a chance.
And you said learn, go back, learn from mistakes and make it better. So that leads me to another question. Okay. If you could go back in time, would you change anything?
Oh yeah, Rampage? I'm known for my hits. I've done some real dogs. I did a game once. It was the player was a bikini. cave woman in a fur bikini with a boomerang riding on the back of a giant red pterodactyl who was running along the ground eating watermelons. And then he would leap into the air and spit watermelon seeds at giant invisible killer bees. And we called it Patooey Louie. And it bombed horribly. I can't understand why. Who wouldn't love to do that?
And the only thing that I'm not getting yet, it's if you're still playing the video games that you have created.
Oh yeah,
You still play?
Yeah, I still play. I mean, I'm embarrassed. Like I say, I'm kind of embarrassed a lot of times in interviews where people think I'm up on the latest games and I know what's happening in the industry. All I know about the latest games are things that I do when I'm watching my 25, 35-year-old kids as they're growing up playing. Then I'll sit in the chair and watch them struggle with it because I can't play a game for 3 hours like they can. I mean, I tried that in my younger years and I got away from it. It's like, no, can't do this. I'm going to keep playing these kind of games where I can get to the action quick, have fun, have a laugh, and then go off and do something else. Entertaining is the important part for me, but the fact that video games fit so well with where I was in my life and where I was in the world in 1982, I've been very, very lucky.
Right.
And I keep saying that, and I'm sorry. I don't know any other way to say it.
No, it's accurate. It's what it is. And I'm thinking on something that maybe it's silly, right? But I was thinking on your kids, right? Do you still remember there was a moment where I don't know, they realized, oh crap, my father created this video game. There was something like that or not?
Well, I used to take home every arcade game I ever did, almost every one I had here in my basement. So I would roll them out of Valley, the test cabinets usually when they were done with them, and bring them here. So my neighborhood, my kids in my neighborhood, their friends would come over here to play them in the basement. And like when I hit 50 years old, it's like, that's probably the only people I figured would remember my games were the kids in my neighborhood because they played them here. So my kids were always very well aware that Dad was making video games.
Yeah,
but I was wrong. Apparently, other people remember too.
Oh, for sure, you're wrong. Yes, man. I would like two things. I would like to live in your neighborhood. I would like to be your neighbor. I would be that guy knocking at the door every single day. You remember when we were kids? Hey, Mom, can I go play in my on Brian's house? It would be now with me being 40.
Well, most of them aren't there. As the kids grow up, you need room. So I foolishly sold several of my earliest and best games around the millennium, around 2000, because I thought, oh, they're always only going to get cheaper. Well, these days, a game I sold for $1,000 is worth $20,000 if you can find it.
If you can find it.
So I don't sell any of my games anymore. I do loan them out to local arcades. I give them to local arcades with the condition that they got them given back to me in the same condition. But that way, at least I know people are playing them because, my grandkids are 2 years old only. My two grandchildren are only 2 years old right now. So it's going to be a few years before they can play them. So I just assume they'd be out there in the world where people
they will grow and they will play for sure.
Someday. I mean, the only thing I always forget to mention is, you can go to gamerefuge.com. But be warned, I don't think I've updated it since the Rampage movie came out. Brian F. Collin on Facebook and Instagram.
All right, my friend. I want to honor the 60 minutes that we agreed for to bother you today. Not sure if
I love talking about it. I love it.
Do you want to add something else?
I've done a lot of different games: casino games, console games, commercial games for big construction companies, for example, Facebook games. My favorite has been the arcade industry, the arcade days. There's something about that feeling of watching people play it with focus groups. I can get reports from testers. That's all fine. But being able to watch kids in an arcade get excited, get sucked in, there's just something wonderful about the arcade, and I'm glad they're coming back.
Yes, I'm absolutely with you. I really miss the arcade places, you know, the vibe, getting in, having the many options, because yeah, we still have today, right? The same is not even
It's
close.
not. It's not. I'm glad they're back because they're preserving the history. But the fact that, you know, a lot of them, the fact that it was taking this small amount of money you've got and deciding which of these am I going to play made it more worthwhile to you as a child. Now, as young adults and or even as kids, I got $20 I paid. I'm just going to run around and play whatever I want to play. That's great. That's great because you still get to play the games. But there was that special magic when your mom gave you just a little bit of money and you had to decide, what am I going to spend it on? And I mean, there's just some magic about that era that there's still some out there, but I'm grateful for all of them. Anybody that's got an arcade game in your place, thank you for keeping them alive. I really mean that.
Yeah, here we are all together on this, man.
Thank you for wanting to do this. I've had a ball. I've really enjoyed it.
You made me happy today with this interview.
Good.
Yeah. So again, really appreciate your time, Brian. As I said, I'm very lucky to have this opportunity. It's something that we can't do every single day, and I don't want to be so repetitive, right? But having the chance to talk with someone who did what you did, man, it's I don't know. I just feel that a thank you, it's nothing compared to what I really want to say or express.
Thank you is much appreciated, and just the fact that you thought of me and wanted to find out more means the world to me. Because, like I say, I love talking about this stuff. These were great days.
Thank you so much, Brian. Wish you the best with the project, and we'll be in contact.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
What an amazing conversation with Brian. As I mentioned in the video, I feel really lucky to have the chance to immortalize his words with this one-on-one chat. If you like what I do, stay tuned because more interviews are coming. Take a look at this recommended content, be part of the community, and I'll see you next time.